Mimi nataka kuchukua picha yangu kuweka London niko.
This is Wednesday, market day. Shoppers gather from the surrounding countryside. One lot of purchases is going by this small bus on its way to one of the centers of work of the Anglican Diocese of Zanzibar and Tanga. This film is about Magila and the part it is playing in the activity of the church in this part of East Africa. This is one of the convents of the Community of the Sacred Passion. The convent is located just south of the equator in East Africa. It is about 30 miles inland from Tanga. This is the mother house for a community composed of about 80 sisters. The community has 14 houses. Only 2 of them are in England. The others are here in Tanzania. The site for this convent was chosen when the early missionaries asked Chief Kimwari for a site for their mission, and he gave them a huge boulder at Magila, as he said his people could not plant on that. So the rock was blasted and the present building begun. Africans armed with spears and knob carriers came to stop the construction, thinking it was an enemy fort. They had to be convinced that the aim was peaceable. And some of their descendants are now among the most faithful Christians. Recent improvements include a piped water supply, electricity from the mains, and a telephone. During this same period, the African community of St. Mary established a convent nearby. They have become completely independent. They have completed their own new chapel. The African community has its own Mother Superior. They want to develop along their own lines. The center of parish life is the Church of the Holy Cross.
jinsi walivyotoa dawa ya mwezi wa Julai.
The Church of the Holy Cross relies heavily on lay volunteers to assist in church services. All the priests in the diocese are African. During the church services, the clergy use articles such as candles, wine, and vestments, which are made at the Magila church store. The wafers used in this communion service were made in the church store. The store also makes all the wafers needed for the diocese of Zanzibar and Tanga, for some Anglican and Lutheran churches in southwest Tanzania, in Zambia, and in Kenya. Most missionary groups in East Africa cooperate with each other, despite the differences in the denominations. Making wafers is only one service of the church store. All these activities are directed by Sister Helene.
The church store sells religious and non-religious books printed in Swahili. The books are supplied by the Tanga branch of SPCK. The most popular of the books is the paperback 10-cent Gospel, approximately an English penny. Now, this is the area where we do all the cutting out and sewing. And this is Sister Sophia, who is learning to cut out and make patterns so that in time she will be able to go back to her own diocese and there teach other girls to do the same work. The cotton for this material is grown and woven in Tanzania. The uniforms will be used for lower and upper primary school girls here at Magila and for a secondary school about 45 miles from here. We employ 7 or 8 girls at a time, and they mostly stay with us until they marry. Agnes is our most experienced machinist. She also makes vestments, which we make to order for any priest who may be requiring them. Santi, Agnes. This is a uniform to be worn by an upper primary school girl at Magila.
The primary school has been taken over by the local government. There are several expatriate teachers working here, although most European or expatriate teachers now work in secondary schools. The headmistress of the primary school at Magila is one of the sisters of the community of St. Mary.
Thank you. One of the ideas being emphasized in Tanzania is contained in the Arusha Declaration. Self-reliance is stressed. In our school, part of the normal curriculum, we teach our children to grow and harvest crops. A part of the education is to preserve our national culture. Eventually, some of these schoolgirls will enroll in our nurses' training school. This is one of the 3 Anglican nursing training centers in Tanzania. We have 70 nurses in training. 8 are boys and the rest are girls. We are beginning a course consisting of a 3-year general and a 1-year midwifery training. In addition, we run a special midwifery course with a 2-year training. The nurses are able to receive their practical training in the hospital, where Dr. Hay is the resident doctor.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, Humphrey.
Someone is asking for discharge today.
I see. Is he ready to go, do you think?
Yes, he's ready to go.
I see.
Yes.
Now, Humphrey, I want to ask you a bit about this asthma.
Yes, ma'am.
Is asthma common in this country?
Well, it is common nowadays, but not as common as in England or another parts of the world.
What's it caused by?
Well, this is the cause of the cardiac failure.
It caused cardiac failure in Samuel's case, yes. Is heart failure common in this country?
Yes, it is common in this country, but not common as in England.
No, because in England many people have coronary thrombosis, which is
Yes.
not common in Africa. Right, well, shall we go and see him?
Yes, Doctor.
Good morning, Samuel.
Morning, Doctor.
I hear you want to go home today.
Yes, Doctor.
Do you think you're all right to go home now?
Yes, right.
And then you'll come back later and get some more drugs, won't you?
Yes.
And how will you come? By bus?
Yes, I come by bus.
How far away do you live from the hospital?
I think from here to the village, to my village, is 10 miles ago.
I see. Well, you'll be able to manage that, won't you?
Thank
Come
you.
back and see us later.
Thanks, my doctor.
Magila Hospital is 30 miles from Tanga, which is one of the main ports and towns in Tanzania. The railway comes up to Muheza, which is 4 miles away, and there's also a tarmac road. This means, of course, that we get our supplies much more easily than we would if we were out in the bush where many of the mission stations are situated. It's the center of the sisal growing area, so that many of our patients are wage earners, though with the sisal market going down as it is at the moment, people are not so well off as they were a few years ago or even a few months ago. The hospital's in two parts. The general wards, where there are about 120 beds, where we nurse generally ill men, women and children. And then the other wards are about a quarter of a mile away, the maternity block and child health and antenatal clinics. The main diseases that we see here are, of course, tropical diseases. Malaria, because it's low-lying and there are plenty of mosquitoes, parasitic worm diseases, and then also measles, whooping cough, and the infectious diseases that we see in England. We don't do a great deal of surgery here because there's a hospital with 400 beds at Tanga and 9 doctors and better facilities. Our own operating theatre is pretty primitive. There's no glass in the windows, only gauze, and it looks onto the main road. We often hear cats running on the aluminium roof hunting if we're operating at night, and the wall doesn't go right up to the ceiling, and the patient's cooking on the veranda outside. Sometimes a luscious smell of onions comes in while we're operating. One of the most important aspects of our work is the prevention. Measles and whooping cough are responsible for a number of deaths. Also tetanus in newborn babies because the mothers apply cow dung to the cord. All these diseases can be prevented by preventive inoculation, and malnutrition can be largely prevented by teaching the people. This is done not only here in our hospital at Magila, but also in our outstations.
Hii, umepata kuiona si? Kuna waliopata kuiona. Ndiyo, hii ni sindano ya bunduki. Kwa hiyo watoto wako watakuwa salama na ugonjwa wa malaria. Na ikiwa mtoto amejaa wadudu wa malaria mwilini katika damu yake, kila siku jioni anatetemeka homa nganga.
This is Tongwe Clinic. It is one of 5 outstations and is about 10 miles from Magila. We visit here once a month and we bring with us inoculations for measles, polio, TB, smallpox, whooping cough, diphtheria and tetanus. Each mother pays 3p for visiting this clinic. Some of the inoculations are free because they are given by UNICEF, but mothers pay for measles and polio. There are 2 midwives living here who give out malarial prophylactics each week. Research on malaria is taking place at the Magila Hospital. Dr. Kortman visits Magila once a week from Muheza. Among other things, he is trying to find out how far a baby's immunity to malaria is lessened when the mother takes preventive medicine. Samples of the baby's blood must be taken immediately after birth. The doctor is able to conduct this research because of the cooperation from the Magila Hospital and because he is able to examine the blood of the 1,000 babies that are born there every year. We run a special midwifery course which takes 2 years. Our aim is to send out 20 fully trained midwives every year.
Can you put the oxygen there? Oxygen, quickly.
This baby, now a day old, weighs 8 pounds. Some of the babies in the villages become motherless. The sisters give them love and care until such time as the father or relations can take responsibility for them. At the moment, there are 28 babies.
Nani mtoto Yesu? Sema mtoto Yesu. Nani huyu? Mtoto Yesu. Ayo, zawadi. Huyu ni Yusufu. Huyu nani huyu? Yusufu. Huyu nani? Mtoto nzuri sana huyu. Baba yake ni mwema kabisa. Anachekea kwa upendo.
When the children get a little older, they can receive their religious instruction from the priest.
Huyo mfalme mkubwa aliozaliwa kuliko yeye, sivyo? Alafu majusi akaambia waende.
Some of these children are preparing for baptism, and some were baptized in infancy and are now receiving their teaching in the Christian faith. One way in which religious training is strengthened in the home is through the Mothers' Union.
Mama Mariamu, kiongozi wetu wa chama chetu, mama wa Kikristo. Na mtoto Yesu, fundisha watoto, fundisha watoto, fundisha watoto. Na mtoto Yesu, fundisha watoto.
Some of the villages have their own churches. This is Tongway Church, to which people come from the outlying villages. Unfortunately, at present, it's without a priest. In outlying villages, parishioners receive visits from the clergy.
Watategemea basi kutoka
Tanzania kwa sababu gari yake ipo, basi anaomba kama apate chochote.
Tunataka sisi tutege pale.
Nadhani itakuwa sawa sawa. Watashukuru. Haya, kwaherini.
We have two problems here. One problem is a lack of money, because many of our parishioners lost their jobs when the Sisal estates closed. And the second problem is the lack of clergy. Young people do not offer themselves to the priesthood because they want jobs with high wages. Also, a number of our old clergy are retiring or are ill.
Archdeacon Kiaka knows the problems facing the African Church as it works to deepen its life and to play its part in building a nation. He wants our help. Help such as that being given by the community of the Sacred Passion and the other workers at Megillah.
Endelea. Haya mwana, endelea.